Okay, so my name is Justine Seeke and I look after solutions marketing for Syxsense, and I'd like to welcome you to today's MSP focus session. A couple of notes before we get going on housekeeping. If you have any technical difficulties during the session, I'll be monitoring the chat facility and I'll do my very, very best to help. We will, of course, be sending you a link to the recording of this session in any case. So please feel free to share this with any colleagues you may think are interested in the topic. If you have any questions for the team, please add them to the Q&A facility as we go along, and we will try to answer as many as we can at the end of the demo and presentation. I'm joined here today by two of my colleagues from our MSP team. Firstly, Mason Johnson, who works with service providers across North America and Australia to understand their endpoint management security needs and help them scale their revenue with our solution. And I'm also joined by Blaise Fellow, who supports managed service providers to help them introduce automated services. And he brings considerable skill to this task, as you'll see from our demo, as he has first-hand experience of working in the managed services sector. At Syxsense, we love automation, and today's topic looks at how managed service providers can bring automation to vulnerability management. So with that, I'll hand over to Mason to look at today's agenda.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Justine. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for being here with us this morning. Again, I'll just go through a quick agenda and get into it. We're going to discuss what are some of the challenges to improving vulnerability management in the MSP space, what's involved in rolling out new capabilities, and what does onboarding and training look like, as well as what benefits can automation bring to an MSP and a service provider. And then Syxsense in action, Blaise Fellow, my solutions architect, will go ahead and walk us through the platform, and then we will do a brief Q&A wherein we can answer any technical or business-related questions that you may have. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. We have a really great conversation on tap revolving around vulnerability management, the importance of the security practice for service providers, and where Syxsense fits in regards to this topic and how we can help. So let's set the table here and discuss what we see as some of the biggest challenges that service providers face in terms of vulnerability management. Security is becoming the driving force for the business expansion of many service providers. Customers are not only looking for the detection of vulnerabilities, but also the actual remediation of those vulnerabilities. Many MSPs tack on a line item for vulnerability scanning and assessment, and they'll even take care of everything that can be fixed by a patch from the vendor, but the gap lies in those vulnerabilities that can't be fixed by a patch. The misconfigurations that would take research, scripting, and a deployment method in order to remediate at scale. While providing this service would be truly valuable for end customers, this is also an incredibly resource-intensive service offering on the part of the MSP or MSSP. So, what goals are we looking to accomplish for our end customers? Some of those use cases are going to be reducing risk and increasing the security posture for our customers, supporting remote workers, and providing services aligning with any compliances they may be required to adhere to. Taking a look at the average tech stack, research shows that most organizations have 10 or more tools involved in endpoint management, ranging from a vulnerability scanner, a patching tool, remote support, and more. This requires ample upkeep that your team must provide, as well as a knowledge base spanning these numerous systems, not to mention maintaining all of your different integrations and APIs. At the end of the day, this all boils down to the end goal of providing as many services as possible, all the while decreasing the cost of providing those services. A bloated tech stack costs money. Labor costs are probably your biggest expense. So how can you provide more value to your customers without needing to increase your headcount to provide those additional services? And not to mention that finding highly skilled people is incredibly hard. It is a tough labor market right now, and good security and IT professionals are in high demand. So, how can senior management enable their employees to provide services that they may not have been equipped to provide beforehand? This is where a unified endpoint management platform like Syxsense comes into play. Syxsense fits into the UEM space by providing much of the functionality that service providers need from an endpoint management and proactive security perspective. By utilizing Syxsense's automation engine Cortex, service providers are able to easily automate really all things configuration management on the endpoint. This offers enhanced monitoring and management capabilities, as well as a more advanced approach to endpoint hardening efforts. Not only can the patching process be completely automated, but we also add on vulnerability scanning for Windows devices to detect misconfigurations, the things that can't be fixed by a patch. That said, we take it a step further and don't just leave you with the results of those vulnerability scans, but actually help to automate the remediation efforts for many of those vulnerabilities that we find. This vulnerability management piece is really what sets Syxsense apart from the other RMM platforms that you may have used in the past. Being able to combine the management and monitoring features you need with a solution that not only scans for vulnerabilities on your customers' endpoints, but also dynamically remediates them is an incredibly powerful and enables your MSP partners to scale the revenue they are bringing in, all without the need to scale their labor costs. This leads to stronger profitability, which is the goal of every managed service provider that I speak with. Now, we realize how big of a lift it can be to replace your RMM solution, but whatever components you have in your stack, we can work with you to bring instant benefits in a controlled manner. Our proven methodology for onboarding both MSPs and their customers means that your team will receive a completely personalized approach to onboarding and training. Whatever your needs may be, we can tailor our onboarding program to fit those requirements. And again, the reason my MSP partners make the decisions to replace their current RMM platform is the value they see when trialing the solution for themselves. That is the best route to test and really quantify how your productivity and cost benefits at every stage multiplies as you consolidate platforms and add new differentiated services. So, what is our goal in adding in pre-built remediations to the traditional vulnerability scanning and assessment process, all the while leaning on enhanced automation capabilities? This should allow your teams to reduce risk faster with less impact on end users, improve the consistency of endpoint configuration changes and patch deployments, in turn delivering predictable compliance. This includes, by the way, CIS level 1 and 2 benchmarks, which we not only scan for, but also offer pre-built remediations for roughly 99% of this library. This is a huge selling point many of my MSP partners are offering to their customers. The ability to achieve CIS benchmarks within, let's say, a mere week of onboarding is extremely attractive for end customers. And then automating vulnerability and endpoint management in a single solution also enables you to push your customers to adopt a proactive approach to reducing the attack surface. Again, all without increasing resources and efforts on your side. And most importantly, you can retain customers with improved services and grow your business without having to recruit skilled staff. And I would add to this that offering additional vulnerability remediation services also helps to differentiate your business from your competition. The MSP space and MSSP space is set to grow rapidly within the next few years, which is great for all of us. But that also brings in increased competition. I'm constantly having conversations with my partners that by adding these additional services, they're not only making it harder for their customers to leave, because those customers would then need to find a way to script these remediations themselves, but also so few of their local MSP competition are offering enhanced services around this. And for those competitors that are providing these services, but are not utilizing a platform that provides this to them, like Syxsense, that competition is most likely employing highly skilled technicians to write those scripts. So my partners gain an immediate advantage in terms of pricing within their market. Just to leave you with some statistics that our team has found regarding service providers who move to a UEM platform with automated vulnerability management, an 80% reduction in unplanned downtime, a 90% reduction in patch management resources needed, roughly a 30% reduction in IT support cases linked to maintenance, over a 50% faster resolution of IT support cases, an overall faster device configuration with automated policy and application and software installation, and then a reduced risk of breaches through vulnerability exploitation. Roughly 24% of organizations that reported one or more breaches found that these breaches were caused by an unaddressed vulnerability, which is significant. And the elimination of unauthorized access, roughly 44% of organizations in these findings reported systems with unintended open access. Simply put, this consolidation of the tech stack and enhancement of automated remediation should enable you to scale the services you are able to provide to your customers and therefore your revenue and profitability. Now, let's see just how that works. I'd like to introduce Syxsense Solutions Architect Blaze Fellow, who will give us an overview of the Syxsense platform and our capabilities in terms of automating endpoint management and security. Take it away, Blaze.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mason, for that excellent review. Automation is a double-edged sword. Threat actors have dramatically lowered the average time to exploitation, and they continue to speed up. Automated patch rollout saves you time and money, but it's no longer enough. If we think of our devices as castles, we need more than just patching, but also proactive configuration maintenance to prevent invaders or bad actors from exploiting weak or vulnerable devices. We'll be going over how Syxsense will be able to provide you automation to detect and remediate vulnerabilities, granting you the speed to be a differentiator in the market while not needing to expand your labor base or skill set. We'll start that process by showing how Syxsense can easily identify and organize your customer base. Where you'll find no downside to automation is enrollment. We have a number of ways that support automating this process, whether it be group policy, a discovery agent, or a distributed MSI. We find a way to make this process as painless as possible. Now, providing a managed service to many customers require proper controls and then being able to scale out to others, whether you're providing customer access to their devices or the proper features and scopes for the support technicians to properly manage their customers. This can all be done easily and scaled out through applied security context to ensure proper access controls is followed, which can be applied and reviewed here, where you can easily switch between the needed context you need to review. From the single pane of glass, we can look at customers' devices' patch health, as well as configuration health, and organize them into groups or queries to provide an accurate number of needed and applied services. With these queries, we can easily deploy remediations in scale based on the information our agent collects. A common concern from here is about content and how it can be deployed. You'll notice that we separate patches and security misconfigurations. One of the earliest steps to ensuring a hardened, holistic security approach is a successful patching strategy, since a patch is a solution directly provided by the manufacturer. Syxsense includes third-party patching in our library of content as well, all of which is hosted internally by our Syxsense content team. We're able to provide pre-vetted and tested content on time when Patch Tuesday comes because we are part of the Microsoft Active Protections program, allowing us to receive those Microsoft patches ahead of time for testing. We not only test in our own sandbox environment, but also have test agreements with a number of our managed service customers that allow for real-world validation before patches or remediations hit our next customer. Let's move on to how Syxsense will set you apart by offering a quick, effective, and reliable remediation service that differentiates us from other solutions that only provide vulnerability scanning. One potential service that could be provided is support in achieving and maintaining compliance. This would be facilitated through Syxsense. which offers scanning for remediation services, providing important resolutions for both level 1 and level 2 CIS benchmarks. Because Syxsense is offering both detection and remediation, it makes scaling this out a simple process of just choosing the customer in which to deploy, and we provide one-click remediation, which is a task-oriented action. So we can simply go in, review the task, and choose the customer in which we would like to deploy it to. To prevent configuration drift, we would utilize our workflow designer to create continuous checks that allow that if this misconfiguration is detected again, it will automatically be remediated. Let's look at a few quick examples of workflows that are keeping track of our customer's configuration based on CIS benchmarks and a CVE 36934 remediation. I created groups that include the remediations for what my customer wants and the service I want to provide. To show how simple it is to using Syxsense to maintain a continuous compliance check, I'm going to use the direct actions to perform my goals. While this is a simplistic creation, this can include conditional actions to branch specific devices like servers versus user devices to be as granular or global as it needs to be. In this first example, I want to provide a service that scans for and remediates detected misconfigurations that have been worked out with my customer. I'm going to start with a scan for a group of vulnerability remediations that we've already approved to have remediated within the environment. Upon the detection of those particular vulnerabilities, I'm going to have a security resolve action simply resolve them. Now we're going to walk through the whole process of deploying it to the specific customer. Let's go benchmarking. And what it looks like to deploy that out to the specific customer that is looking to have this created. So in a publishes policy, we have a name for it. We can trigger it however we want, and we would just select the customer that would be receiving this particular policy for remediation. So in this case, it'll be customer A. Now with that information, I just save it. And now that configuration is set to be maintained for that particular customer. Now for customer B, if wanted to change, we've already achieved CIS benchmarking for level 1. And so now we want to make sure that that configuration doesn't drift away from what we've already achieved. So just for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to edit what we already have. I'm going to choose the group, which includes all of the CIS level 1 benchmarks, which we scan for and remediate. Simply change the name here. And upon, again, any detection that has drifted from the configuration that we've approved with our customer and supplied, I'm going to choose the same thing for it to remediate here. Change the name to make sense. And then save it again. Now, again, as we saw before, the process for publishing the policy is the same as simple. We're just going to target a new customer, which would be customer B. Save. And it's deployed. It's just that easy to maintain configuration within your customers that, again, they've been approved and you've been supplying. Now, the last thing, let's say you're doing CVE hunting, and we're going to look for a specific CVE. We make that process, again, very easy. We want to find and scan for that specific one that we're looking to detect. So I'm going to go under specific, and I'm going to look for the CVE number. In this case, the unique identifier is 36934. I'm going to select it, save it, and save. So now upon detection, I'm just going to have the same security resolve action, specific 36934. Select that as well. and save. So essentially, it is that easy to create specific configuration drifts to make sure that it stays within the configuration that you've approved. You can also remediate the specific CVEs that we detect for, and be able to provide a more global approach to a service that you can provide to your customers, that if these CVEs are detected within their environment, you can easily remediate them. There are exponentially more ways to branch out the conditional actions for the devices, whether they be more basic user-oriented, like this example I have here, where it also includes patching and the security vulnerability baseline built into it, again, maintaining that configuration that you've already established, or the incredibly more complicated infrastructure production server. So this one, of course, requires a lot more actions, pre-checks, and validations for services that are running. So of course, you can branch out to include those, and then include something like a security configuration baseline, again, to make sure that it still maintains the configuration that you want and that it doesn't drift away from what you're doing. An additional way to further that conditional responsibility, where you can identify devices based on its unique needs, is through variables. So this could be used in the case of something that would be very highly important to the infrastructure, and you can label them certain ways that would, in this case, this example was used to create a variable for a 0-day that was discovered on it on the past Tuesday to get rebooted during a different maintenance window, instead of the more global or normalized maintenance windows that are set up throughout the rest of the week. So this shows you how you can customize your solution to your customers so that you can provide the actual remediation needs within their environment, again, based on the devices that you would like to target. Now, the last thing I want to present today are some valuable reports that show proof of service needed to be provided to the customers based on the vulnerabilities detected through a risk assessment, and other reports on deployed remediations showing essentially that the work was done successfully. By now, we're all probably familiar with the term tech debt. Sending a customer report with thousands of vulnerabilities can lead to decision paralysis. Our reporting helps to break those numbers down into both manageable and actionable items for you to provide and track the service, and for the customer to understand the work done. One of the ways to show that progression is essentially establishing a baseline with something like our security vulnerability risk assessment run at the beginning of the service. This will give you a nice readout of the environment and what can be started or what can be done to start that process of remediating in your environment. You can scroll further down to see some of those metrics and how we can, again, start quantifying or changing that concept from an overall number to essentially targeting specific areas of vulnerability so that it makes sense for both you and your customer in an achievable way. You could target sites or customers, or sites based on the customers that you would like to review and scale. Or again, you could scroll further down for the customer and look at specific families that you're achieving for remediation through your customer. Again, whether you're working on those CIS benchmarks or you're attacking some detected vulnerabilities that are just found most commonly throughout the environment. This can, of course, be branded for your company or the customer which you're sending it to make it, again, however you'd like it to be presented. So as you progress through the services that you're offering, some other valuable reports could be something like detected security vulnerabilities by device, which is pretty much what it sounds like. How many vulnerabilities exist on those specific devices today? And so here is that massive number of a lot of vulnerabilities that exist within the environment. But again, understanding how or what to do with that number is where Syxsense comes in with our automated remediations. We can start deploying those without much labor or skill set effort needed on your side, but you can start lowering those numbers by providing and distributing and deploying our remediations. And so you can see this number go down over time with a successful plan of working with your customer to provide that service. Another report that is valuable would be something like the detected security vulnerabilities by vulnerabilities, where you can send a specific report with the vulnerabilities that are detected within the environment, essentially a count of the number of devices that have that specific vulnerability. It's a different way of looking at a very similar kind of metric, but again, it's what's most attractive to what you would like to display for your customer or what the customer wants to see specifically. For proof of services rendered or provided, you can provide something like the security vulnerability remediation history by site or by customer. Again, this can be branded to be very specific to who you're supplying it to. And you can see specifically the vulnerabilities that you've achieved within the time period you've agreed upon, whether it's a month, a few months, a week, or whatever you need. You can provide a direct report for what's been deployed within the environment, and it's very easy to read. Ultimately, the end goal is to, if you remembered, we had less numbers at the beginning, so we've increased the number of devices that are scanned for the customer. We have a much longer set of time in which it's being detected, but on average, we're detecting less overall critical, less overall high than we did at the beginning. All this is showing us that we have a successful security relationship with the customer where everything is progressing in the right way, and we have proof to back that up during the whole process. So that's the end of my presentation today. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and I hope you gained some insight to the valuable services that you can deploy in scale with little effort by utilizing our Syxsense solution. I'd like to hand it back to Mason for any questions that may have come up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Blaze. And we did have a few questions come into the chat. One of those you already answered, Blaze. Essentially, they asked, can reports be white labeled? Answer is yes. You can change those to be your, white label towards your MSP, the actual customer. A lot of flexibility there. Another question, however, was in terms of content. Are you leveraging AI to create these remediation scripts? Can you talk about that a little bit, Blaze, and how our content team comes up with those scripts?
Our content team is the one creating them directly. Well, I say that AI isn't developing or creating it for us. The problem with AI is that it can essentially hallucinate or create bigger problems than what is trying to solve. And so I always emphasize that our human content team is creating and pre-vetting the remediations and hosted content of the patches that we have within our library. That being said, AI is a powerful tool, so it might be utilized to bolster some of their efforts. But for the most part, like I mentioned in the presentation, the team are creating those remediations and patches and then testing them in a sandbox and with the agreed upon customers that allow us to do it before it gets released in scale to the rest of our customer base.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And that next piece is kind of a three-part question. I'll take the first two and then I'll hand it over to you, Blaze. How is this licensed? How many administrators can be in the portal? It's licensed per device. And so to answer the next question, have as many administrators in the console as you would like. And you can even give access to your customers on a read-only basis or delineate access how you would like. And then that last piece there, Blaze, do IT and security operations staff have to use the same interface? So you might want to touch on kind of the difference in portals and how you can adjust maybe the widgets and the dashboards that people see.
Yeah, I briefly touched on it at the beginning where you can set up different security contexts based on who you're supplying access to. So what that means is that for customer A, if you have a specific support tech that only works with the user base and not servers, you can get as granular to permitting them access to the site at customer A, but then controlling the scope of devices to only be user oriented. So they only have access to the user devices, and vice versa for your sysadmins who don't want to do work on user devices. And then it can be even as granular as if you need to provide controls to a customer to review their information, it can be read only for their site, but it can also be as granular to only scope in the device that they would need access to if they need to or want to look at their own specific device, and that would be the only thing they'd be able to see in the console.
Yeah, exactly. So it gets pretty granular and flexible as far as the ability to provide controls to who you want to provide controls to. So that's great, Blaze. With that, I think that's about all we had today. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to reach back out to us. Otherwise, I will go ahead and pass it back to Justine. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending.
Thanks, guys. And it's so exciting to see the platform in action, in particular with the orchestration Cortex feature, which is just a massive game changer for our MSP clients. If you're interested in signing up with us, you can take a quick photo of our QR code here or go to the link that we've provided. And just want to, I appreciate it's late in Europe, but just wanted to let you know we've got a few opportunities coming up where you can see the solution and our people in RL in real life. So I'll be at the Climb Partner Summit in London on the 4th of July. We will also be at Exchange Security in Dallas on the 15th to the 17th of July. Our CEO, Ashley Leonard, will be talking on the topic of AI and IA, intelligent automation, as we call it. And of course, we'll be at Black Hat between the 3rd and 8th of August in Las Vegas. Baby, so come and see the solution in action. If you're going to be there, we're on booth 4434, and you'll have an opportunity to win some very, very nice bourbon. And then a couple of other things just to let you know. I've just been working on with one of my colleagues a brand new case study for one of our MSP partners, Free Division, in Europe. So we'll be posting you a link to that as part of the follow-up, and we'll also give you a link to our product update webinar, which happened earlier this week, in case you haven't had a chance to get that. But thank you so much for joining, and we'll look forward to following up with you soon in due course. Thank you.
Thanks.